Take a hit.
And join in.
This is Kareem.
And Travis. And welcome back.
Wow. We actually managed to get that. We probably rehearsed that only 3 times, though, to be fair. So that's actually pretty impressive.
Well, yeah. I think we need to come up with something.
Yeah, something a little bit more signature. We're just trying to have fun with it because I guess.
Well, maybe we'll just make that like our quirk. Our opening little statement kind of changes from time to time.
Yeah, I guess
it kind of does already, I guess.
Yeah, I guess.
So I guess that's not really a quirk.
Sometimes it's bad. It's like just dry. But what are we talking about today?
We're talking about why people, have the tendency not to go against the norm or don't want to challenge something, or
people not challenging the status quo. What's with this complacency, right? Like, what is? I'm like,
what is this? Complacent, or are they just, I guess might as well just dive right in this, But are they complacent, or are they more like afraid? And is there a difference between that?
Yeah, there definitely is fear can definitely make someone complacent, I guess. But yeah, I think fear is a good way of kind of maybe talking about where it's actually, why it is the way. I think fear, like this mass fear that's created in our country, and I think throughout the world really, has created very much so this, complacency in people where they're not challenging the status quo. I think back when I was growing up, I was always taught to question everything, and it seemed like you were able to and hold people accountable. It's always
kind of go against you.
At least to some degree.
Your gut says something, stick with it. Don't let someone try to convince you otherwise. But I think some of it is that people are, it goes back to that fear of being accepted,
right?
And kind of, I don't know. Like it's an interesting conversation. I think because people are. We think of how our parents taught us things. We never really questioned anything that our parents told us. It even goes down to that level. Of,
I feel like I have though.
But maybe as you get older. But as a 5-year-old, you have your rebellions of why do I need to do that, and you have the why and the what questions.
I think because.
But your morals were never really questioned. I don't think.
No, my moral compass always kind of stayed really strong with me. I think because I realized that even if I separated any religious or spiritual connection to it, it's you just feel innately that that's the right way of doing things. As a human being, you feel like your programming that's the right way to be. Is just someone with a moral compass, and everything else is kind of like a distraction of one's soul that represents your energy, or energy that represents your soul. And it's the more and more you give that energy away, the more you're recycled into other things, and therefore you're less whole. So I kind of saw it even in that scientific way. But now as I gotten older, I realized I do feel this connection to something divine and unexplainable and just really powerful. And that's kind of what grounds me and binds whatever I challenge as a kid to now as an adult, realizing maybe my parents went through something like that, and maybe in their own right they challenged what they were told to do, and I'm just like my parents, and maybe I think that's why I said I think it's really healthy to challenge the status quo at all times. Let me take my sip.
Yeah, and going back to as a child, for me,
I need to take a breather.
It's kind of sorry, more of I didn't necessarily go against what my say my parents were saying or me, but I always took things that with a almost with a grain of salt type thing. I always kind of looked on the other side, or the what if,
right.
And it's not so much that I'm challenging it, it's just I'm kind of trying to find a confirmation of what that the world is telling me or my parents is telling me. So I'm trying to think of it.
Well, that's like finding yourself. That's the journey of finding yourself, because your essentially personality is made up of a bunch of influences, right, based off other people's experiences. And that's why I say it's very important we pay attention to what we consume, whether it's entertainment and pop culture and the news and stuff. We have to be very careful of what we're consuming, because a lot of that stuff does influence you, and sometimes in a negative way. If you always believe there's negative things in the world going on, you're going to start to have a negative outlook on yourself and in life, and feel like things are futile and feel nihilistic about life. However, if you start looking within those things in moderation, and you also start being able to be taught how to separate yourself from consuming constant news and media all the time, and you can balance it out by being informed to some degree, but not always.
And I think that right there is what a problem within itself is, that we're combated not combated, but maybe kind of like attacked with so much news and so much whatever, and we can't necessarily like rifle through it and determine like what is right or wrong
Like, I feel
or
like, is
what
there
is
really that
accurate
many things
or
going
what's
on?
not.
Like, is there really that many things going on? And if there is that many things going on, why does it seem like some that are so like minuscule in the grand scheme of things are the most just widespread throughout the nation and around the world? And it's like, wait, but why are they doing this? Is there other things going on that we don't know about? Like, that's the scary thing, is that there's such a connection between all these media outlets that at the end of the day is all really within like a reformed like pattern of saying things. The information they give is exactly identical, and they talk in the exact same way, and it's just like word for word, almost like they all rehearsed it, like it was part of a programming,
Yeah, when you look at it that way, that things does look like very scripted and those type of things, and then you kind of question, okay, are they just reading from a teleprompter? Like, is this really like perspective, or is it like truth? And then at the other part of it is that when I was kind of going back to the social media piece is that it's hard to distinguish between like what is true news and what's kind of altered
Yeah.
and what's kind of just a meme as a joke. Like you have like, well, I can't necessarily name websites, but websites that kind of like take a natural current event and turn it into something like completely like not true, but
Yeah.
kind of funny. So I think
Yeah.
it's hard to distinguish as well. And I think that's another reason why people are afraid to go against the norm, because they just don't know, maybe
Mhm.
because there's too much information. I don't know. It's just a different way of looking at it, maybe.
Yeah, like I think there it's just a lot. Like for me, there's times where I tune in and I'm just so overwhelmed, and I start to get really sad and down about life, and then I think like I snap myself out of it. I'm like, whoa, that a lot of that just seems very like common now. It's just so common that it makes me have to question, like, has life always been that bad? Like I don't remember being that bad. And then it just seems like I'm almost being told to be like so paranoid and feel like that life is just a constant fear of like my life being so threatened or just so unhappy, and
Hmm.
it's like I don't want to live that way, but I'm being told to live that way, and therefore that sadness and that fear and that anger makes me feel malleable in a sense, because now I can follow a narrative that seems slightly more positive but could have their underlying dark tones simply because it seems better than whatever yesterday's pain or trauma was. It
Yeah.
just it's so crazy to think about how people are so in this middle sense of like just mundane, empty, complacent, fear-ridden,
They're almost like a robot
defeated.
that they're just running a program that was given to them in life, as in,
Yeah.
wake up, shower, go to work, come home, make dinner, do this, and like they're running this little simulation.
But everyone's so angry right now. Like everyone is just very on edge, and I get it, like 100% get it. But it's people have lost a lot of like where their humanity has lied before the pandemic. And you would think during the pandemic we'd all like come together, like be one country, and really fight whatever evils and dark truths were waiting to be unveiled as a country together. But instead we just divided and gave up our power and just forgot like what it was to just have empathy and lead with empathy and love. And
And it's
remember,
actually
what makes
kind
the
of
world go round? It said it was just survival and selfishness and fears in our on our doorstep, and our lives are being threatened. Like, let's show what kind of characters we really are before death or potential death, and it's an ugly thing to think about.
Yeah, and I think some of it is that I continue to go back to social media on this topic, and I don't know why. Probably because I think
Hmm.
it's made things more decisive. It's made things more questionable because the news is so free. It's almost like the truest form of free speech. Someone can witness something and then put it out there instantly, and that could be good or that could also be bad.
True, but
And
look how it's being threatened every single day. Like there's so much censorship that it gets closer and closer to fitting a narrative, like a narrative structure, because now it's like you're dwindling down what can and cannot be said, and then now you're like putting out basically what
yeah,
whoever's controlling it wants
that's
you
a
to
tough one
think,
because
because they can
it's
control it. The more power and emphasis we put to even social media's importance of the news and being able to broadcast things, the more and more they take power away from the only tools that we have
it's
to
almost a
inform each
privacy thing
other.
too,
Yeah.
in some aspect, and that's a sensitive topic. I know, like within like
Mhm.
the IT world or even social media. media world or whatever
Yeah.
is more privacy is less freedom, but more freedom is, more chances of misinformation or even hacking or those type of things. And it's a tough line.
I'm all about free speech in the truest form because I really truly believe that if you're witnessing free speech, you're getting
But
to
is
be able to.
false free speech acceptable?
Yes, at the end of the day, everything can be worked and dissected. Everything could be, like I said before, unveiled. Some dark truths can be unveiled. But if you block things, if you censor things, that's the scariest thing that you can do because you don't even give the person the opportunity to even fight. There's not even a chance
There's
to
one thing
seek
about dark
justice.
things, and there's one things to be, to share information that I
Unfortunately,
think
to
is
have the bad
not.
or the good, you have to have the bad sometimes. The overall good,
But
it's
I
better to
mean
have.
more that I guess the fake news, and I don't really like using that word because it's such a buzzword. But like what, like if all of a sudden I said that apples are
But who
purple,
decides facts at the end of the day when
yeah,
when any lie can be shown to be true simply by what we're allowed to see? So that's why I challenge and question everything. I'd rather there be zero censorship,
but shouldn't
and
we come back
yeah.
to a common standard so that we all know what to base
We
truth
can
off
call them,
of?
we can call things fake news, but at least they're still allowed to be broadcasted. Once you unveil it, then you can properly say as a general agreed upon opinion throughout the country that, yep, this is false and fake news. And there you go. Now you have enough evidence and then that can be debunked. And listen,
Yeah,
if we
because who
have to be,
determines what's fake? Like I think is what you're kind of saying,
yeah, because at the end of the day, like it's too
or
hard because,
what's true.
yeah, but I mean, for the most part, we know some things are just true no matter what. It's just the way of life. It's true. You can't deny it. Like, I won't get into it because it's controversial opinions, but
Yeah, I think it's interesting because we look back to our childhood, we didn't really hear like these arguments, being made as like we're talking about today, and I really think,
I'm sure they've always, were there to some degree
yeah,
in the smallest of
but
ways.
our parents, I think,
But
at least my parents did, what the news so called
Mhm.
told them, they believed.
Mhm.
So like, and even I'd say even my grandparents are even further down there, what like the newspaper told them or what the radio told them. So like, it's almost like the human is actually gaining some power back because they can decide for themselves, if that makes sense. Like,
but
and I don't know if that's just my weirdness.
the conspiracy theorist slash actually I would say realist, because I think for the last 5 years, all the conspiracy theories that I definitely were a part of and was in those inner circles of connecting with people, really finding that sense of community and awareness. And I'm like, wow, like this is so cool. We've been right in the last 5 years. So it's like, I really believe I'm like a realist at this point because it's so obvious. Some things are so like, just like, I don't know how to explain it, but some things are just as clear as day to me that this is obviously bullshit. And the average person is just so ready and to attack and defend that narrative as
Or
if
they might
like,
just be, I think some are unwilling to have the conversation and or attacking you because they're afraid of what maybe the truth is. It goes back to that fear piece, I think, of accepting or just being wrong. A lot of people
mm,
just can't admit, hey, I was wrong. And I think that's a better than taking the stance of
right.
the opposite. So
Of course, because we want to see that there's development there. At least there was a challenged perspective, and then there's at least some type of growth or end result or payoff rather in the end. I think that's why I think debates are healthy amongst people, but debates that can be honest and that are not censored, things that can be completely transparent to all people, not only some people. And those things are kind of the savior of freedom in this country. It starts with those major elements of
yeah,
communication amongst one another. If not those
it's
things,
hard to
how
trust.
can we ever, yeah, how can we ever really find what the idea of freedom truly means in this country if, it's being stripped away every single day. And then you're starting to see it's this unveiled truth that we maybe didn't have as much freedom as we thought. Maybe it was just a false narrative placed upon people to think that, what, let's make them think they have it so good. But in reality, we're taking from them as much as we can. And these are debt slaves. And at the end of the day, they're not really free. They're under the guise of free, but look how much in debt our Americans are. They live a life of slavery to the financial system.
Yeah, because they either want more or they're paying off bills for, yeah, that's, you know, kind of goes back to our,
Challenge everything. That's like that's the rule of thumb here in this entire conversation. It's like challenge the fucking status quo. Stop being so fear-ridden or complacent. Because if you feel like you're going to be fearful, imagine what everyone else probably is going to feel, because they're going to say, "Oh, well, then someone else will expose it, not me." No, everyone should do their part to just be aware of what's going on in the world to a degree, like still enjoy life. But if you know that some things feel off, but yet they're becoming major elements of your day-to-day life, how are you not challenging that? I don't understand why people are just so like complacent.
It's almost like it's kind of like, if you see something or question something, it's just kind of like speak up a little bit, like kind of like maybe turn to your best friend or something and say, "Hey, what's this about?" Like actually start having that conversation. I think around sensitive things.
I get they're defeated because I've been there. I've been in that defeated state where I have crossed, the path of being nihilistic and feeling so jaded that I didn't care. But I'm finding that, like, no, this is exactly what they want us to feel. And it's like, no, I'm going to find happiness still in love.
But do you think some of this, to kind of go back to the norm that that I guess the world or the government kind of wants us to follow?
They're conditioning us to.
Okay, but do you believe that? And this is maybe just a side conversation, but do you believe that the government should establish some type of social order? Like, isn't that kind of like, as they're, and maybe it's a whole different conversation, but my mind went to social order, because if you don't have order, you have chaos. So if there's chaos, does the world still spin? I'm going deep. Sorry,
you're saying like kind of loosen the control a little bit so that there are people that still overall collectively that can make powerful decisions just as equivalently, I don't know if that's a word, to like a president of sorts. Like, is that what you're trying to say?
I guess because I'm more thinking like the news and what is true and what's not, and like I think the world is looking for answers.
It's impossible though, because money is the disease to those truths. Because even if you hire people to be the truth seekers, the ones that are a committee of people that only expose truths and like whatever, I mean, people put all the power and faith into them. Money at the end of the day is that drug that can just poison a whole bee colony or beehive or ant colony, whatever you want to say. You poison everything. It's kind of like when
we talk about bees and ants a lot.
It's kind of like when exterminators come and they put the food for the bugs and they send the bugs back with the food to their colony, and it kills everything, and it exposes, where they are around the house, the trash. Mm-hmm. So that whole thing is kind of like what money does to any real group that was probably started out with good intentions, and then because of the money and because of a life that is no longer like that of struggling and suffering in their own way, they see money as an out, and at the end of the day, that would still rule that person's life and the choices they make over other people. They don't care. And that's like the disease. I feel like money is like the ultimate devil's like temptation over anything. I think it's just money because it equates to power, equates to a better life. And those are things that cannot be like just easily disposed of as a choice. People are going to really either heavily think on it or act on it. And that's a scary thought. I don't know how I got to this point right now, but it's getting scary again.
Yeah, I don't know, but
it's getting, whatever.
Yeah, the social norm.
Challenge it. Go against the grain. Don't necessarily be combative or argumentative.
Yeah, it doesn't go off and
doesn't even necessarily mean spark conversations
jump out of a tree because you're disbelieving that someone told you that you can't fly. Like,
no, we're saying more so just that if anything seems, like I said, that there's a negative underlying
find the facts for yourself. I think
connotation of something new, something trendy. Challenge it. Ask yourself, why is this somehow become a norm when you know that it's not a good thing? Or you feel like it's something that for a long time was, considered, illegal, and now it's legal.
Well, look at it,
or kind of legal.
Well, here's a good example is like, just look at like murder convictions or something like that, and then years later, evidence surfaces, and all of a sudden that murderer was not so much a murderer and proven not guilty, and then all of a sudden the prisoner was released, and then he just wasted or she wasted.
Well, those types of things are horrible, and I would hope to God that just because you're holding someone accountable on your side,
always like question the facts and just, if new evidence or facts come up.
I see what you're saying.
That's more of like what I'm getting at
Right.
from that standpoint, as in,
Mhm.
challenge, the status quo can be challenged because facts do change,
Right.
and just be aware of what information
Just kind of
is
how
out
like, we
there.
were supposed to wear masks and then not wear masks and then actually
Wear masks, not wear masks. Like, I guess
Yeah,
that's fact
and how
changing,
millions
or
of people
maybe they
died
just don't
because
really
of
know.
this complete lie, purposeful lie on their end. But anyway, so those things, like I said, are great to be challenged because it actually is going to affect your actual life, like your survivability. Those types of things, like a pandemic and stuff. Those things you challenge. Any movement that affects children, you should challenge. Anything that affects the food market or industry, you should challenge.
Basically,
Prices.
things that affect your livelihood, I think, is what you're saying.
Yeah, like those things. Obviously, if it's something that's like, oh, pop star decides they're gonna split up with this pop star, it's like, oh my god, you're gonna go and challenge that? Like you're gonna spend your time looking up facts? No, that's what they want you to challenge. They want you to challenge.
They want the
that.
attention.
That's because that's what they're after for your interest, like the conflict of other people's lives. Their misery is your pleasure because humans are sadistic.
Yeah.
So there you go. Challenge everything. Be smart. Be aware.
And
Take a hit and
have a high point.
have a high point. And join us next time on the next episode.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.